You like my little fuzzy mic? It's extremely windy out here, so hopefully this little mic will cut through and you'll be able to understand what I'm saying. Thank God for this little thing too, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear a word I'm saying. It would just be like me sitting here moving my mouth and you would have no idea. You'd be like, uh-huh. So, yeah, it's a good thing I have this thing. It's cute too, right? What's up guys, I'm Lizzie, and it's come to my attention that there may be quite a few people now looking for alternative ways to deworm a horse, keep a horse healthy, maybe even yourself or other animals. It's seeming to be more and more difficult these days, and more people are coming to the conclusion that you can't always rely on modern medicine. So, I've mentioned this quite a few times in my other videos, and I've really been intending on making a whole video on it, so here we are. I'm going to dive deep in the world of EMs, also known as efficient microbes or effective microbes. We've had a ton of rain recently, like almost too much, to the point of everything being so wet. So, what is EMs, you may ask? EM stands for efficient microbes or effective microbes, effective microorganisms. EM are mixed cultures of beneficial natural occurring organisms, beneficial bacteria and fungi. It's a fermented culture made up of EM's culture, molasses and water. This was one of those things that my mom came across like 21 years ago when we were kind of new to farming and she could not figure out how to keep her goats or her horses healthy. We've been making it ourselves ever since then, and our animals always look so healthy. Our horses always have amazing shiny coats, nice strong feet. I trim my own horse and I never have to get invasive with a knife and cut out the sole or the frog because it always sheds out on their own. They have great teeth and we never use regular dewormer. One of the reasons I was super eager to do this video is because we recently came across an article that had 14 proven studies that ivermectin causes infertility. And that's one of your more natural dewormers that most everybody uses because they think it's less invasive. But it is well known that every dewormer can be very harmful on your horse. I'm so glad that we have come across EMs and we have been able to use it, and I have not come across a horse that does not like it and takes to it immediately. Stella won't even drink her water if her EMs is not in it, so when I go to shows, I have to bring a bucket with EMs in it so that she will drink her water when we are at shows. How is it beneficial? EMs are amazing for the gut bacteria, supporting the immune system, strengthening bones, helping hair growth, and makes a great dewormer, plus so much more. Not only do we give it to our horses and other animals, but we take it ourselves, and it boosts your immune system, it promotes healthy gut bacteria, it helps with hair growth, and I literally believe that it helps strengthen your bones too, because my whole family and all of our animals always have such strong bones, and when I see other people just take such light falls or trips or something, they break so easily, and knock on wood, we haven't ever broken any serious bone, and our horses have never broken a serious bone or a bone at all in that matter. So I do believe that it helps strengthen bones, and it also is amazing for their feet. Like I said earlier, I trim Stella's feet, and her soles and her frogs shed out all on their own. I do not have to go in there with a knife and dig them out like you see other farriers having to do. I think it also helps that we do barefoot trimming, but their feet are always very hard, which makes it harder for me to trim, but they're also very healthy and they grow very nicely. And we do not give our horses grain. The only things they get is hay and pasture, and the only other supplements they get is a mineral mix, which I can pull up right here to give a rundown on what kind of minerals we give our horses. We buy all the minerals in bulk and then we mix them together so that we know just how much they're getting and we can control that much, and it's also cheaper. So these are the only other supplements that they get. We give it to them just in a mineral tray. It's calcium, kelp, magnesium, baking soda, mineral salt, Renmin salt, and DE. I think sometimes we add some other things to that too, but that's the main thing that we give to them. And especially when they're out on pasture a lot and stuff, I always make sure that they have minerals on hand so that it helps with bloating and reduces risk of colic and those kind of things. My family has owned horses for 18 years on this property, and only once out of probably over 20 horses that we've owned here, and only once has a horse mildly colicked, and we were able to keep it under control ourselves, and it never escalated, and she recovered very quickly. We treated her with some homeopathics, and of course she had her minerals and EMs that helped her get over her tummy ache. So I need to put my hair up, this is ridiculous. Now that we got that out of the way. So how do you use EMs? Well, I'll tell you. Yams is basically just a fermented culture. I like to kind of compare it to kombucha because it has a similar flavor and it has similar beneficial properties, but it's a little bit more powerful. So how we use it, we have 4 or 5 5-gallon buckets, and we alternate them through day to day. So we use 1-gallon bucket a day because we put roughly 2 gallons of EMs into a 50-gallon water tank for both the cow tank and the horse tank. And that leaves about 1 gallon at the bottom of the bucket, which is what you can use for your refill. And I'll talk about that in a minute. If your horse or animal is going through some health issues, then you can offer them straight EMs throughout the day if they want it. Obviously, you want to wean it to them slowly so they can adjust, because if they're not used to it, it can cause a heavy detox, which is never fun. So just make sure you introduce it slowly, and I'm sure the animals will take to it immediately and will crave it because they know it's good for them and it's what their body is looking for. When a horse is very toxic, sometimes it'll take them longer to adjust to it, but all of our horses love it, and we've introduced many different horses to it, and they always take to it immediately and they always love it. And if they ever have a health issue or some sort of, stomach ache, if they're colicking or whatever, just offer it to them straight and have it available to them all the time. You can also soak your grains or your oats in EMs, which is actually a great idea because a lot of times grain and oats and those kind of things have a lot of dusty moldiness in them, and it just helps with all the dust and stuff. So I highly recommend actually putting it in your grain and your oats if that's what you're feeding your horses, or your cubes, or whatever you're doing. And of course you can take it for yourself too. We drink it all the time. I like to add it to my kombucha because it has a similar flavor. But again, if you're not used to things like fermented brews, kombuchas, whatever, just wean yourself into it slowly. You don't want to cause a heavy reaction or whatever, but it is very good for you. So I highly recommend starting slowly, feeling your way through it. Unless you are used to kombucha and you're not used to a lot of sugary things and you feel like you are already somewhat of a healthier person, then you might be okay with it. I know people that took it and didn't have a single reaction, and I also know people that took a very small amount and had a very big reaction. Not like a scary emergency reaction kind of thing. It's just, a little bit sick feeling for a while. So where to get it if you want to start making your own EMs? You're going to need your own starter culture kind of thing. It's almost like if you were going to make sourdough or something, you need the starter culture. So if you're interested in making your own EMs, this is a good source to get. Not sponsored. I'll put it down below in the description so you can go check it out. But you really only need a very small amount to start, like a quart or a pint. It doesn't take much at all, and it's extremely easy to make. I'll get to that in a second. But like I said earlier, my family has been making it for over 21 years, and we've been keeping our same fermentation going. We have EMs for the house, for people drinking, and we have EMs for the animals. It's also great to use for your gardens, or if you're composting, those kind of things. If you have a pond or something, it's great to put EMs in it because it keeps algae and bacteria from growing, and it balances out the levels. If you're planning on making it to consume yourself, obviously you want to use food grade molasses and high quality stuff. You also want to make sure that your water is filtered and have a good source of water. We have well water, we know it's good water, but if you don't know if your water is good or not, make sure it's filtered and just make sure it's a good source. Obviously you always want to give your horses filtered water. You don't want to be giving them chlorine or anything like that, so that's just a heads up too. And if you're not planning on taking it yourself or just using it for your gardens, your animals, whatever, you can always get molasses from the feed mill or whatever. It's really cheap there if you have those options. So how to make EMs. Once you have your culture, you're going to need to grow it and keep it going once you're using it. So we have 5 5-gallon buckets and we alternate them through days. So we'll use a bucket one day, we'll give half to the horses, half to the cows, and we'll leave a little bit at the bottom, probably like a half gallon, maybe a little bit more, to add molasses into that. So it'll be a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 molasses, 1 EMs, and then you'll fill it up with the rest with water. So it's like a 1-to-1 to 10 or maybe even 20, depends on what you're filling up. It's really, really not picky on the measurements. You can be sloppy with them. It's fine. You don't have to go crazy measuring them. Maybe if you are new to it and you want to get the feel of how much is what, then you can go ahead and measure. It doesn't really matter. If you want to get a quart and you want to start making it for your animals, I would suggest putting the quart into the gallon and then adding molasses and water to that. And then once you have your gallon, you can split it between 2 buckets and just grow it like that. Super easy, super simple. Once you have the culture, it's extremely cheap to keep going because molasses is very cheap, and obviously the other ingredient is just water. So you're just making a natural dewormer, healthy thing that'll last forever, and it's super cheap. So I really highly recommend. The only thing you have to keep very consistent that it's very picky on is temperature. You do not want to leave it in the sunlight. You do not want it to freeze. It doesn't like going below like 50 or 45 degrees. You want to keep it in a temperature controlled room, because if it fluctuates a lot, then it can start smelling a little bit, like poopy smelling almost. You can even save it and bring it back to life if it's, gone too far in that direction, but it won't smell super great for the time being. So just don't leave your culture in the sunlight outside when it's really hot, or keep it outside when the temperatures are dropping, those kind of things. So we have ours in our mud room in our house. It keeps it very temperature controlled, and it's very easy to maintain from there. Another thing I want to note is that if you have a metal watering tank, I don't suggest putting EMs in there because it is acidic and it will rust out your metal tank. So it'll happen slowly over time, so it's not like a huge deal, but it's also not great. So I wouldn't really recommend that. But like I said earlier, keeping EMs in your water can really help control your water bacteria so it doesn't grow algae. You don't have to worry about bacteria growing. The only thing it causes is bees like it, so that's the only thing. We don't have to clean out our water tanks nearly as often, but you still want to clean them out occasionally because the EMs can start going bad. If the tank is never emptied or anything, the EMs in the bottom can start smelling bad, so you'll just want to empty your tank out occasionally in the hot summer, and if it's never emptied, like if the animals never drink it down low. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them down below in the comments. I'll try to be helpful and answer all of them. It takes a while for a human to adjust to it more than an animal does, because I think humans are just more toxic all around than animals are. So it may not be as sweet as we like things to be nowadays and stuff, but you can always add sweetener, you can always add honey and stuff. We used to do that all the time too. It really is good if you put some ice cubes in it and mix it with some lemonade or something. I like to add it to my kombucha or my lemonade. It also makes a great ingredient. We make homemade mayonnaise, and my mom puts it in the mayonnaise, and it's like a flavor enhancer, almost like MSG, where it just really brings out that umami flavor. Also, if you have dogs and you're feeding them regular dog food, I'd recommend drizzling a little EMs over their dog food because it can help them digest that better too. Really, just wherever you can stick it, just stick it, because it's one of those things that's a superfood and you can just put it anywhere, and I highly recommend it. And again, we've been making our own EM culture for like 21 years, and we haven't used regular dewormer in over 18 years or something. I don't remember quite when my mom stopped using regular dewormer, but we've never had issues with colicking, worms, ulcers, those kind of serious things that most people have so many issues with, and we're really lucky to not have to have those issues all the time. So yeah, I feel like it's one of those magic ingredients, and I want to give a little piece of it to everybody who has a horse or animal, or even just to you, so that you can be healthy always and make sure your horses are always healthy, because maybe if people were healthier, we'd just be nicer. But that's it. I hope you guys are intrigued. I hope you want to make your own EMs. I hope I send you on a journey that will never end. You can continue making your EMs forever and send it on to your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, and it can go on forever. And so, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big like and subscribe. You can go follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and I post new videos every single Sunday, so go ahead and subscribe. Come back next Sunday, and we can have more fun hanging out. Yeah, that's it. Bye.